On January 31st, all the bishops of Texas will publish the names of clergy that have been credibly accused of the sexual abuse of a minor. And on that day, the Diocese of Brownsville will also publish a list to the church in accord with that decision, which was made after some serious contemplation and consideration as to what the good of the church was. What will happen is that the results and recommendations of a independent review team that has been set up, that I set up here in the diocese, will be made known, so that the church can be more assured that there's nothing lost or buried in our archives. The team had access to every file the diocese has on priests, deacons, and bishops, and that report will be made known to the church. It's a moment when we have to realize that this goes back to 1965. The study in the Diocese of Brownsville starts with when the diocese was founded. And so the review team did an exhaustive study, an exhaustive search and examination. And it will cause pain for the whole church, but in a particular way for victims who, no matter how long ago something may have happened, may very well feel stirred again in a sense of the pain and the loss and the sorrow that they experienced. So we have to keep them in mind, and we have to pray for a spirit of healing and a spirit of reconciliation. But it's also important that we recognize that I and the bishops of Texas took this decision for a very serious reason, and that is that it really isn't possible for us to move forward in our efforts for the protection of children in the life of the church into the future if we don't have an honest accounting of the past. And so I established this particular review team of 7 lay women and 1 layman to examine all of our files and to present to me whatever they found. I had no anticipated knowledge as to what they would find, and so that we could then be able to say with integrity that that history is being dealt with, and that these names are being made known, and in a certain way to kind of help the church itself be healed or experience the grace of healing in a kind of sense that there's an honesty about the past. This is very difficult to face, but we must face it together. And that's why I'm in full agreement with the decision that the Texas bishops made and present this information to the church as we move forward. The review team reviewed every single personnel file. It's including the priests and the deacons and the 7 bishops that have ever served here. And so my understanding is in excess of 800 files. You put them all together, the personnel files, and they looked at them in great detail. And this was part of the exhaustiveness. It's a great service that this review team has done for the church, done for me as the present bishop, so that I can receive this sort of independent report and address the realities as we move forward in our attempts to protect young people. The team that I set up was, as I said, 7 lay women and 1 layman with experience in the protection of young people and their education, with families, and with a great love for the desire for the church, and this desire that we have to protect young people as we move forward. And that was one of the main aims and purposes of this exhaustive review and this publication. When I first addressed this issue in a letter to the faithful, I asked for the whole church, in a spirit of the body of Christ, to pray and to do penance. I asked the priests to say masses of reparation for the harm done, because this is a wound really to the body of the church that affects obviously the victims, but also the whole sense of the trust of the church in the leadership, and also in just the way we handle situations of this kind. So the commission, the review team, were then able to present this information, and I asked the church to pray, and I'm going to continue to ask the church to pray. I earnestly believe, as the bishop of this diocese, that the sins of some affect the whole body of the church, and it's a wound. But in the mystery of grace, the acts of reparation and the acts of prayer and the acts of penance of the church also in a mysterious way contribute to the healing of the body. So I will continue to ask the church to pray, ask the parishes to offer holy hours for many intentions, but particularly with this intention, that the church experience a renewed vigor in her sense of humility and of service. I believe that part of the moment we're living in the church, certainly in the United States, and I think here in our own diocese, is the Lord calling us to a spirit, a poverty of spirit that starts with humility and honesty, and that relies more upon His grace and not upon our own abilities or our own institutional sort of structures. And that's part of what this moment is about. And so I would ask for that intention, that in whatever we do in the church, that we do so in a spirit of humility and of service and of honesty. It's a painful purification, but as I've said, it's one that I believe, as the bishop of this diocese, we need to face so that we can look forward to the grace of a renewal and the grace of renewed zeal and announcement of the kingdom which Jesus suffered, died, and rose to bring to us. I have been very conscious of the suffering of victims. I have met with many victims. And while I cannot necessarily completely experience or sense their pain, I do, in that experience of speaking with them, I do have some connection to that reality. And it reminds me of how important it is that our work in the church, especially since 2002, since the diocese in the whole Church of the United States began a particular sort of emphasis upon training of the whole church, the laity, catechists, deacons, priests, bishops, everybody, in terms of how to see the signs of any abuse of a minor. That's so important. And that we keep that focus on protecting the children, and all of the training that we have, and all the ways that we help people to see the signs, to prevent this from ever happening under any circumstance. The church is an institution, but she should not be an institution like any other institution. Our accountability, and this is the moment for us to try to make this as real as possible, our accountability must be honest and complete. Because we are not only accountable to each other, but we are ultimately accountable to the Lord. And this is what the whole work of prevention and the whole work of attending to victims needs to be focused on. So I do encourage us to be always vigilant in this way, and to keep in mind all the important ways that in families and in schools and in institutions of any kind we can be much more effective in protecting our young people. I honestly believe that one case is one case way too many, and we have to work with the mindset that we want to make sure that this cannot happen. And so I genuinely want to encourage the whole body of the church to take this moment as a serious moment of prayer and of ongoing conversion of heart in the parishes. The suffering of one part of the body is a suffering that affects the whole body. So at home, when families pray the rosary, and when we go to make a visit to the Blessed Sacrament, or when we participate in the activities of the church, the processions, the days of penance and the days of feast, that we do so with the intention of the healing of the church, and especially the continued healing of victims.